kind of random.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! Woo!
What up, y'all? Welcome to another 2022 edition of Championship Rounds Podcast. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. And you know what it is. This is boxing talk for the boxing fans. You could be hardcore, you could be casual, but casual, just listen. That's all you got to do. Just listen, learn a little bit more, and join the hardcore ranks. Like my partners here on this podcast. First up, the homie Tony from intothedome.com. Also, he has a certified belt to whoop your ass. And we ain't talking about no regular belt either. We talking about, the kind where you've been flipping is, since you've been young, you winning championships and shit. What's good, Tone?
Hey, man, everything's good, fellas. Happy New Year, man. Pleasure to be back on, man.
Same to you, bro. And also with us, as always, the writer, the analyst, the podcast. This nigga got more podcasts than me.
Yes!
Every time I read it, I'm like, wait a minute, what's the name of this podcast? It's a different podcast. But what's dope is it's all boxing for the most part. Not all of it, but the majority is boxing. Writer, analyst, podcaster, Robert Silva. What's good, man? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Vegas. Happy New Year, Toad. And Happy New Year to all the listeners out there, because I get, fellas, and I'm sure the same holds true for you, brothers, nothing but positive feedback when people come back and say, man, I listened to the program. Yeah, I remember that fight that you scored. Yeah, that was a robbery. Oh, that was a close fight. And yeah, you guys make much more sense than what the boxing media talks about. Yeah, you know why? Because we're not tools of the boxing organizations and the boxing promotion, like that fucking idiot Bob Arum.
Right. right. And if you are coming into this podcast for the very first time, well, welcome for one. But also know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting app. It doesn't matter if it's Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, whatever. In the search bar, type in the words Championship Rounds Podcast. You'll see the logo and you'll say to yourself, oh, shit, is that Mike Tyson sending Trevor Berbick to the shadow round? Yes, but it is. That's the podcast you should subscribe to. But also, more importantly, share it with other people you know enjoy this kind of boxing content. Now, if you're watching the video version, which is in the description of this episode for the audio people, there's a link to the video version. And for the probably second time, because I posted a video version maybe on episode 1. But this time, we spruced it up a little bit. So if you're watching on a video version, you can see pictures of 3 legendary boxers in the game. But they just so happen to be our favorite boxers of all time. Now, don't be like a little shorty and, where's Sugar Ray Robinson? Shut the fuck up, shorty. What I'm saying to you is these are our favorites.
Yeah.
Not pound for pound, whatever. No, these are boxers who made an impression on us as boxing fans at some point in our life. As you can see, for me, it's Mike Tyson. For Tone, it's Sugar Ray Leonard. And for Robert, it is Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Jerry Curl edition. Y'all know y'all don't want that smoke with that. You know you don't want that smoke with the Jerry Curl version. You gotta be a mean motherfucker to be like, I'm gonna do my Jerry Curl before this fight. I'm about to fuck this person up. All right, well, let's get right into the business, man, and talk about a couple of things that went on in the boxing world. And number one on the list, and Robin, I'm gonna come to you first because I'm sure you got some funny shit to say about this. Gary Russell Jr. loses, right? Clearly something happened to his arm in the fight. But this is a man who's taken like one fight per year since I think like 2015. But he spent a lot of time capping on social media. What did you think about his performance in his fight, the loss, and what do you think is Gary Russell Jr.'s future in boxing?
First of all, I want to commend Gary for fighting a heroic fight because he fought with one arm for 10 rounds
Yeah, he
and
did.
he almost won
Yeah,
the fight. Mark Mixayo did not impress me at all because when you fight a one arm fighter, you're supposed to attack the side that is broken. No, he was going to his good side and kept getting
right.
hit with that left cross over and over and over again. It almost blew the fight. Uh, Gary Russell, I think it's past his expiration. When he comes back
Mm,
into the ring, because he's not going to fight again this year. He can't. He's got a dislocated right shoulder. He won't be back till next year. He'll be 34, a step slower, and short for the division. He's only 5'3", 5'4". That speed is almost all gone. Think it's time for
yeah,
Gary. Think it's time for Gary to wrap it up. And he's got an incredible post-fight future because his father's in poor health, meaning he's in control of his younger brothers, who both are incredible prospects, and he'll be
yeah,
guiding these young men. So he doesn't need to fight. That's another reason Vegas and told why I believe he didn't fight for the last 2 years. He was always sparring with his brothers and being the assistant trainer to his father, who now is going to be in a wheelchair probably for the rest of his life. Gary Jr.
wow,
will have to step up and be the head trainer. That's cool. Keep him out of the ring. He doesn't have to fight anymore, and he could guide his younger brothers. So I think that's what his future is. If he fights again, I really don't want to see it because you saw even before he hurt his arm that he lost a step. He was getting hit with shots he normally didn't used to get hit with.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I saw some of the same things. Tone, Gary Russell Jr. last fight. Devin Haney says a bum losing to a bum is it, or
Well,
should he be quiet?
you know what? Unfortunately, man, in some talented guys' lifetime in the sport of boxing, they become journeymen. And I believe this was the situation where we're seeing with Gary Russell now. His best days are behind him. I think he wasted. I mean, I know he was training with his brothers and helping his father and doing that, and that's fine and dandy. But if you're gonna do that stuff, you can't spend so much time on the internet talking about you want all the smoke
Right.
when that's not what you really want. So I feel like a few years of his last few years, he's wasting some time, and these young kids are getting better. So all he would be now would be a journeyman and a gatekeeper to the Shakors and the Devin. Hey, he can't beat these kids. He's too
Nope.
he is a step slower. I think that sometimes a certain loss changes you, and I just feel like that Lomo fight, Russ is never the same. After taking that ass whooping, he's just never the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should go ahead and train his brothers now and do something else in the sport. He has the pedigree to still be something great in boxing outside of the ring, and it's still inside the ring to a degree. So he's done, man. I mean, yeah, he lost to someone who, at the end of the day, he did fight 9-10 rounds. And if you look at they've had a couple reports where it showed after he hurt his shoulder, what have you, he basically didn't throw with that arm anymore. That
He didn't.
fight,
He
Nope.
didn't look.
Right.
He has one of the best jabs in
yeah,
boxing,
he didn't throw at all.
and he didn't throw a single jab after he dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah, so he was really hurt. But at the end of the day, he's a journeyman now, and I really don't want to hear Gary Russell Jr. mouth anymore, to be honest.
Only
That's my
time I
take.
want to hear his mouth is when he's training his brothers
Yep.
and he's at a press conference hyping up their fights. That's it.
Right, right, right.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with the both of y'all, man. I looked at that fight and I looked at it after it happened. And when I saw he dislocated his shoulder, I was like, that now it makes sense because I figured he had enough to beat this cat.
Yes.
And like you said, he was still effective with one arm, which says a lot. But I think in a lot of ways, even though I feel like he probably should retire and do exactly what your brother said, I think now, even though they said he didn't have a name or a buzz or none of that, I think now one of those younger cats are going to give him the opportunity, and he's going to take it because of money.
Right.
But it will be his last fight, because he'll finally get
Yeah.
one of these cats, and they're going to wipe, they're going to mop him up,
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
because he's a step
Yep.
slower.
Yep.
But we know how in boxing cats tend to, stay in the ring, just for that last big check, and then maybe bounce after that. So,
But Vegas, you make a great point. The hunger, and Toe made a great point too. I believe the hunger left after he lost to Loma, and that he
mhm.
has been beating fighters on just plain natural ability. He's never had to step up, and I give him credit. Saturday night was the first time he had to step up since that Loma fight, and he fought valiantly. But I don't believe the hunger is there. And it
Right, me
hasn't been
neither.
there since the Loma fight.
Yeah, me neither. I think at this point he would, if Tank was like, I'll take you next because he knows he'll mop the floor with him. I think he just take it for money. To be honest.
That'd be a severe mismatch, man. Oh,
Oh
that'd
hell
be
yeah.
that'll
Hell yeah.
definitely be a retirement fight because he'll never fight after that beat again.
Right, right, right. Like I think you better take Haney
Yeah.
if you want to take one of them. All right, moving on to the next thing. Tone, I'm gonna come to you on this one. Tyson Fury and Dillian White are looking like they're gonna fight next. Do you care?
You know what? Absolutely not. Don't really care. Dylan White is a he's a solid fighter, whatever. But I really wanted to see Fury in a bigger blockbuster. The heavyweight division don't have time to be wasting on these kind of fights. I mean, I know he's a formidable challenge and all this kind of stuff, but I get it. But I wanted to see Fury fight with my guy, Usyk.
Usyk, yeah.
That's what I wanted to see, man. So if they make it happen, I think they're in negotiations, whatever. I mean, I'll watch it for the sake of watching heavyweight boxing, but I'm really not too excited, to be honest with you, man.
What do you say, Robert?
Dillian White has absolutely no shot at beating Tyson Fury.
None.
Dillian White is past his prime. As you saw last year, what Povetkin did to him, Fury's going to do the same thing. But right now, Fury's got to fight somebody because Joshua refused to take his step aside money, and Joshua still going to fight Usyk. So Fury is supposed to take the winner of that fight, has to stay busy. He just can't, because I believe, like you guys believe, that Usyk's going to win the rematch. He can't go without a fight and then fight Usyk. Nah, he's got to stay busy. So, regardless of how long the fight is with White, that's a nice tune-up fight for when he does face Usyk, hopefully at the end of the year.
True. Yeah, it's kind of like I mentioned in a previous episode, right? Like I'm just not interested in seeing Dillian White fight. I feel like my recollection of him anytime I say his name is a dude that just always looks gassed and is looking for a hook, you know what I'm saying, to throw.
Hey, Vegas, even in the fights he's won, like the fight against Joseph Parker, he was out on his feet in the 12th round. The bell saved him.
It's like he's always, and a couple of times I've watched him train, and I'm like, all right, I mean, look like you got a little cardio, but then as soon as he gets in the ring, it's like this man is dead. Like it's the 15th round every round.
And he's never cut. He's always pudgy.
Right.
That's one problem right there. Conditioning.
I mean, you see Usyk and you see Joshua, and Wilder, they're always in great shape. Fury's got a different type of. He's in shape. He just can't get cut. People laugh.
He is shape though.
But he's one of the white boys that can't get muscular definition because he even juiced 5 years ago when there was no muscle on it.
Right. That's it.
But he's always in great shape. He just doesn't have a great looking body.
That's true.
Dillian White's a different story. If you look at him, you could tell if he lifted weights or if he jogged. He could be cut, but no, he's always fucking pudgy.
Right.
Yeah, he's always kind of tired and sloppy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is not going to make for a great, entertaining fight unless Tyson Fury just fucks him up the whole fight. Then that'll be entertaining. One thing about what you said though, that I kind of wish Joshua would have taken the side money because right, we get Fury and Usyk, which is a matchup we would definitely want to watch. But then Joshua should just call Wilder, like, yo, you still sleep?
Yeah,
Yo,
exactly.
That's
wake
true.
up.
Let me tell you
Let's
something. That's the biggest heavyweight fight to make, even bigger than Fury Usyk, is Joshua
right,
Wilder. You don't need the
right,
title. That fight will sell out any arena in the United States. It will sell out any soccer stadium in Europe.
right. Because it's I think like with Joshua, obviously you could think like, oh, he wants the revenge. But if he thinking about money, first of all, you're taking a step aside money, and then to your point, you fight Wilder. That's what we talking about
Yep.
because we already know what kind of fight that's gonna be.
Because that's not going the distance and somebody's going to sleep.
Exactly. And Joshua, spoiler alert, nigga is you. Back, fight the nigga. He back. You know what I'm saying? All right. Well, I wanted to just really quick get a since we did like top 5 pound for pound for the year, and usually when you come back from a new year in January, you want to look at what the I'm not a new year. When you're coming back, off of New Year's, you tend to think about what's going to happen this year, potential matchups and stuff like that. So, Robert, I'm going to come to you. What are at least one or two matchups for 2022, whether they've happened or they're booked, or you want to see the fights? What are two fights you would want to see?
Sticking with the 147-pound division, which is the best division historically in boxing, Terrence Crawford versus either Errol Spence or Boots Ennis by the end of the year. If I
Mm,
could get one of those fights, I'll be satisfied. To me, there'd be amazing fights and 50-50 fights. So either Boots or any of the three, Boots versus Spence, Spence versus Crawford, or Crawford versus Boots.
mm. And what about you, Tony?
man, I really like to see Floyd Mayweather team just go ahead and really let Tank get one of these fights we really need to see him in. I really like to see before the end of the year Tank fight Stevenson or David Hayne. I know it's gonna be very hard to make one of those fights happen, but I like
Mm,
for these guys to get a little tune
Oh,
up or something here in the
Devin,
spring.
Devin Haney's not a hard fight to make, Tony. He's a free agent right now.
Well, yeah,
oh, really?
and what you're saying is true in theory, but we understand how these egos and all this crap they'll make it harder than it need to be.
Plus,
So
PBC would want Haney to sign an exclusive deal before
that's
the
what I'm
end.
saying. They're gonna make him do something he don't want to do, and so it's
Exactly.
not gonna happen. But I like
Mm,
to see him fight Stevenson or Haney, and I like to see Canelo stop chasing these damn tomato cans because I do love Canelo Alvarez as a fighter, to be honest with you. But I want him to fight the Charlo boy and get this out the way on
Hey,
Benavidez.
May 7th, there's only two fighters left that he's negotiating with. It's either going to be Dimitri Bivol or Charlo.
Well, they
So,
need
yeah.
to get this. They need to get it popping.
well, because he's looking at the biggest look. Canelo's no fool. He's always going to go to the highest bidder. Right now, those are the two contenders. Eddie Hearn with Bivol and PBC with Charlo. It's whoever comes up with the most money. It's going to be the toughest fight of his career since Mayweather, May 7th. So
Well, then I'm looking forward to it.
it's going to be no
That's
tomato
true.
can that night. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's true. For me, obviously, I've been talking about it forever. You know what I'm saying? Bud Crawford, you know, versus who. Does he have a fight lined up?
Spencer's fight Ugas next.
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, Bud and Spence is what I want. I hope it's it's not too late at some point when they do fight. I would love to see that this year. But another fight I would want to see just because I'm thinking of the action that it would generate is Tiafimo versus Tank. I just think
Oh, that
they
would be an
both
explosive
they
fight. That would
Knock
be
you-
exposed.
That would be a good fight.
That fight's not going 12 rounds. Somebody's getting knocked the fuck out.
Somebody's getting knocked the fuck out. And it has the potential to be one of them fights where you seeing both men get dropped.
Yeah.
So and who knows? It may not happen, right? Cats lose. We'll see a whole, but we know Tank is one of them cats. He can't stick to the game plan. He just wants to kill.
Yeah.
And he may try.
But I got to
he's
give
gonna
Tank
just do
credit in his last
best.
fight with Cruz when he hurt his head. He went to boxing.
Yeah, true.
And he gutted that fight out because he went to boxing, because he couldn't slug with the guy with one hand.
Nah, he couldn't. Not at all. All right. Well, there y'all have it. Those are a couple of fights that we want to see in 2022. Some may happen. Hopefully all of them happen, but we shall see. Now we're going to get into what's coming up for the month of February as far as a boxing schedule with the homie Tony. None of those fights are happening in February, but somebody's fighting.
Yeah, man. We got first up, man. Clarissa Shields and Emma. Is it Cozen?
Cozen, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Cozen 10 rounds, man, for WBC, WBA, and IBF middleweight titles, man. I think it's interesting because, well, I'll just say this real quick. Clarissa Shields, she's tough. Still only has like 11 fights. Emma has over 20 fights and 11 knockouts. So I still think this is a nice challenge for her, man. What do you guys think about this first fight on the lineup, man? Shields against Cozen.
And there's nobody in boxing, women's boxing, that's a pitbull on Shields' ass. It's going to be another one of those fights where if it goes a distance, 10-0, 9-1. Shields has yet to be challenged. She wants Savannah Marshall, and Marshall keeps ducking her. So
well, that's the reason why people ducking her. But you know,
right.
And the other
at
day,
least this girl's not.
And the other day, she was sparring with Floyd Mayweather. I love to see it.
Yeah. I totally agree. I just can't see it being beat right now. I'm thinking maybe, right, is easier said than done, but I'm thinking maybe the female boxer that figures out you got to bully the bully in some way, or make it rough, or make it ugly, one or the other, and see if she could deal with that. Because typically, I think she usually dictates the fights, and she's extremely confident.
She's dictated every one of her fights.
Well, because she's strong too.
Yeah,
she's strong,
and
she's really strong.
She's got that ramrod of a jab. Oh, they can't get past it.
Well, hopefully we'll see a little bit of action, because at least this girl does have, like 11 knockouts. I think she's a little bit bigger than Clarissa overall. So we'll see if she's willing to put her chin out there and try to make it a fight for a little while. And I think she's fighting in Wales
before. Yeah, she's touched the canvas before.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying.
But
yeah. So, and this is in Wales. So,
we'll
right. See. Yeah. Also up, man. Keith Thurman and Barrios, man. Barrios. I'm sorry. I don't know, man. Like, Mario still is small to me compared to Keith Thurman, who I always thought could have moved up another division. So I mean, I know this is supposed to be maybe a tune-up, I don't know, but it's a pay-per-view fight, man. So you got Keith Thurman fighting this guy, and ain't this a kid that Tank knocked out?
That's Tank knocked him out last year.
Yeah. So man, Robert, what you think, man? I don't even know what to say.
This is a bullshit pay-per-view fight. Keith Thurman, who hasn't fought in 70 years, is making his comeback and he's been promised by both Terrence Crawford and PBC that if he wins this fight, Crawford is next. I see Thurman struggling to win a 12-round decision because he ain't the same fighter. He lost to Washington Pacquiao. Pacquiao kicked his ass, right? And then Terrence Crawford will put him out the pasture.
Yeah, Vag, what you think, man? Because with me, also I feel like at some point in the fight, I wouldn't be surprised if Mario hurt Thurman a little bit. His passion is not there anymore, so I feel like he'll win the fight. He might actually get hurt a little bit, man.
He's been laying on that couch for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if it, Barrios, if you're listening, hit him in the body,
Yep.
because
He'll
we
run.
know that man will run if you hit him in the right spot in the body. One thing though, I think Keith Thurman is going to win. I think he has a point to prove. I think he picked this opponent because he knows, he's smart enough to beat him. I don't know if he one time anymore. He hasn't been one time in a long time.
In a very long time.
But right. But I think, he's a smart fighter also. But one thing though, what the hell is up with these matchups all being pay-per-views that are not big matchups?
And
Like we've
nobody's
had a
buying,
couple of
and
pay-per-views.
nobody's buying them. And they're still throwing it out there.
Like this
I
is
don't know how
not
they afford to do this.
fight.
How are they affording this, man? Because they're not making money off nothing like this.
They are making money at the box office, though, because
that's true.
The Tank Davis Isaac Cruz fight sold out. Whatever the Atlanta arena's called.
But Tank Davis a big draw now, so he's selling out. He's selling out arenas now.
But pay-per-view, it flopped. It completely flopped. It did no business.
This is gonna flop terribly. I mean, 3 sales.
I'm sure that the gate's going to PBC cards always do well at the gate.
They do.
I'm sure that they can come in with the gate, and the pay-per-view is just extra money, as little as it comes in.
So basically, they're being greedy.
Yeah,
they being greedy. Yeah, and you know what? I think the gates for any of these fights would do well that are on pay-per-view because there's a lot of boxing fans who haven't returned to live boxing still,
right,
including me.
Right.
So, I would go to this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was at the Barclay.
Right.
But that's kind of
it would be cheaper than buying it on pay-per-view.
Yep. It'd be cheaper for sure.
Yeah, it would. Well, man, we'll see him. That's definitely one that I'll find a way to watch it. So I definitely want to see it for what it's worth. But anyway, man, February 19th in England, man, we got Amir versus Kale Brook. Now, look, man, 5 years ago, I might have been intrigued, man. We talking about two washed up guys right here, man, who have been broken in the ring over the years, man. So I don't know what this is about. I'm sure there'll be a nice crowd there because the names are still big, where they're from and everything like that, man. But again, we'll watch it. It's on ESPN Plus. I'll definitely tune in, but not that intriguing, but I'll sit back and drink a beer and watch it, man. What you think, Robert?
So, like you said, 5 years too late. What pisses me off is, especially the British media, they keep claiming that Amir Khan in his prime should have gotten a fight against Floyd Mayweather because he had the tools to beat Floyd.
Hilarious.
Oh, my God.
They pushed that for a minute.
I remember that joke.
There was a joke.
All right? If Floyd would tattoo him all motherfucking day. I don't care if he's taller than Floyd. He's got no chin. Floyd would have knocked him out. I don't give a damn about this fight. I'll watch it probably. Matter of fact, I'm working that night, so I'm not even going to watch it till the next day. And fuck this fight.
Robert going to watch it on YouTube.
Right.
Daily
watch it on YouTube. Right, with the zoomed in camera so they don't pull the shit down.
Right.
Oh, man. Well, I think this fight is going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be great because now their defense is both shot and they just getting hit with the shots and it winds up being a great slugfest, or it's going to be like Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins.
Oh, that was a horrible fight.
I've never been so mad in my life. I wasn't expecting, prime versus prime, but that was the worst display of a fight ever.
Those were two skeletons fighting each other.
Right. They were falling all over the place, piling each other, all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, man, but it is what it is, man. They love boxing over in England, man, in Manchester, and they're
going to sell out that soccer.
Absolutely, they'll make an event, man, and fight on the card, man. In Scotland, man, we got Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall, man, 12 rounds for Taylor's undisputed junior welterweight. And look, man, I think this is gonna be a decent fight, man. But I'm gonna go to you, Vegas, first, man, before I give my take after Robert.
Well, what's weird is maybe I have to see a picture of Jack Catterall, but I don't know who the fuck that is. I've probably seen him before, but maybe
Yeah,
I
you
just
said
don't know my name. Um, so I'll defer to y'all, but I probably will watch just because it's for the undisputed junior welterweight title, and that that's intriguing in itself. So definitely check it out.
you know. I mean, Jack. I mean, I don't know how Robert feel about him. I mean, he's not gonna win the fight, but I mean, he's game. You know
He's
what
a
I'm saying?
game
The,
fighter.
the times I've seen him fight, he gonna throw punches. I mean, he's game. He ain't no chump. You know what I'm saying? Even if you knock him out, I mean, he'll fight you. So at least Josh Taylor he'll get a good workout.
He's a game fighter, and Taylor doesn't knock anybody out anymore. So I see Taylor winning a 12-round dominate decision.
Yeah.
Taylor's talking about moving up to 147. He better stay his ass at 140 because he has no shot in the world against Spence, Boots, and Crawford. They will
Mm.
pick apart his lack of defense and his uh, lack of punch because he's not knocking out 140 guys. What does he think he's going to do when he fights a
You know
Crawford,
what?
a
He'll
Spence?
he'll end up Robert. He'll end up like Adrian Broner. You wasn't like you can't move up, bro, because you ain't knocking everybody out at 140.
And you're
So
not,
Mhm.
and Broder never knocked anybody at 147. He should have stayed
that's
at
my
one.
point.
Broder should have stayed at 135.
He really should have. That's where he was getting the most pop at. So I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
if your
I,
power don't move up, well, first of all, you ain't got no power, so you shouldn't
yeah,
be moving up anyway. If
right.
unless you're a superb boxer,
Yeah. I mean, he's a very good boxer,
he is a very good boxer.
but not good enough to beat those
Yeah,
beasts.
he's a tier
Right.
under them.
Yes, right. If
He's
they're
good, very good, but he's a tier under them. He can't be any of them.
if he's an A, they're A pluses, and when you move up, an A is not beating an A plus. When you're
Nope.
not bringing that power.
Yeah, I don't
Nah,
know
man.
if it's a thing where with some cats, thinking about Jim Broner, um, they need to take a page out of Nonito's book because he became himself again by just saying, "Fuck it, I can't go up. I'm getting murdered when I go up."
Right, right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
a great example because
That
he was
is.
getting killed at 122 and 126. When he went back down to 118, he was back to being the old Donito. Taylor,
Right.
whoever's in charge of his career needs to sit him down and say, look, forget 147. He could dominate 140 for years, but no, he knows the money's at 147, but it's just gonna be a paycheck because he's not getting any glory.
Nope.
Sometimes it's not about the glory though, Robert. You know that. If I can get 1.2 million in my biggest fight, for example, I'm just throwing these numbers out here.
Right.
My biggest fight being 600 grand, or maybe let's say my biggest fight being $1 million, but I'm gonna get 2.5. I'll take that ass whooping.
Oh yeah. Or
Right.
if he were to fight Spence, Crawford, or Boots, it would be at least 2.5 million he makes for those fights.
Yeah, he'll
Without a
take an
doubt.
ass whooping for that.
Wow.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think the most he ever made was $1 million for his fight against Ramirez. I don't
Yeah,
think he's ever made
you
more.
talking about doubling your salary, baby. I'll take that L.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I get it, but I mean, that's one fight. You can fight 3-4 times against easier opposition and make about the same, right?
Yeah, it's true, man. But you know what? Every
Right.
time you get in that ring, it take years off your dog. So
That's true.
man, that's
Yeah.
it, man. This next couple of weeks, man, for what it's worth, we got something to watch. I mean, it's not nothing spectacular, but we'll just have to tune in for. It is what it is, man.
March is going to be spectacular. So
Yeah, man.
just keep your seatbelts on. March,
Right.
we'll have
Right.
a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Yep.
And those are the fights for the month of February. If you're listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube at the B-Roll Network, leave your comments in the comment section below. Do you like any of those matchups? Do you not care? Do you not pay for pay-per-view, but you still watch them shits? Leave your comments in the comment section below. But now we get into the point in this podcast that we do every episode. So it's dope if you go back and listen to old episodes because we score old fights round by round. Each one of us, Robert tallies the scores, give you championship rounds podcast scores of the fight. versus the actual judges. Usually there's some bullshit, or we score it the same as the judges. But you can score the fight along with us. The link to the matchup is in the description of this episode. And this is what boxing fans do. You know, we like to score fights. So, Robert, can you set the table for us for this episode of Scoring Classic Fights?
Has a lot of sentimental value to me because this is the last fight my father and I attended together at Madison Square Garden. This was March 13th, 1999. My father, a few months later, would be diagnosed with throat cancer and would die July 30th, 2000. So this is the final fight that we attended. March 13th, 1993, at Madison Square Garden. The undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis, versus Evander Holyfield. My father, a few months later, would be diagnosed with throat cancer and would die July 30th, 2000. So this fight has a lot of sentimental value to me. And also, fellas, my father and I both bet $100 on this fight. And while we didn't lose it, we didn't win it. God damn it. So this fight, promoted by Don King, was finally to decide the first undisputed heavyweight champion of the world in 7 years. And it was a fight between the two best heavyweights of the 1990s. So we go on to that night, March 13th, 1993, and we go ahead, Vegas, and we go right into the fight.
All right. If y'all don't know how we score this fight, we score it 2 rounds at a time. We each give our score, then Robert tallies where we are point wise each. And obviously, by the end of the fight, he reads our scorecards. I'm going to go first. I gave the first 2 rounds to Lennox Lewis, or Lennox, as they keep shoving down our throats on TV. But the first round, I felt like Evander. I don't know what the hell Evander was doing in this first round. I think he was biding some time. Let's not forget he predicted a knockout in the third round. So he kind of let Lewis take control, and Lewis started with the jab early. Second round, again, I felt like Lennox Lewis was controlling the pace of the fight, but not really putting in much work, but just more work than what Evander Holyfield was doing, which, basically had me decide to give him round 2 and 1. Tone, how'd you have both of those first 2 rounds scored?
Yeah, man, I had round 1 and 2 for Lennox Lewis. I mean, round 1, it was more filling out, but Lennox did do a good job throwing a couple of jabs here and there. Holyfield, couldn't really get in. He got like one good punch in, I believe, in the first round. Second round, same thing for me. It was just Lewis was hitting that jab, man. And also, let me see right here what I have here. Vanna just wasn't active enough, man. It's like, Lewis was composed. And one thing I liked about Lewis in starting out, I could see one game plan was you 6'5", be 6'5". He stayed up tight. Standing up tall. He threw his jab, and Holyfield wanted to get in close. Cause Lewis is not a good fighter when you're in the mailbox. You know what I'm saying? So that's what Vanna wanted to do, because Vanna actually fights very good close. But he kept him off, man. Kept him at bay. And I thought the first 2 rounds were pretty easy to score, man. I give him both to Lewis.
Robert, how'd you have rounds 1 and 2 scored?
This was an easy first 2 rounds to score. This was an easy fight to score. But first 2 rounds, round 1, Lennox dominates with his left jab and lands an occasional right cross. He gets round 1. Round 2, all Lennox. Fuck that Lennox shit. Lennox. Lewis landed several combos at the beginning of the round and keeps landing his left jab at will. And fellas, you make a great point. Lennox Lewis used his height better than anybody in the history of the heavyweight division. I always said that when Emanuel Stewart took over his career, he turned him into a heavyweight version of Thomas Hearns.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what he did.
So after 2 rounds, all three of us have a 2018 Lennox Lewis.
All right. Round 3, I had scored for Holyfield because he predicted a knockout in round 3, even though he didn't get it, but he for damn sure tried. And I think the pressure, right? Obviously being aggressive and getting inside because of that aggression is what, caused me to say, this round belongs to Holyfield. Round 4, I gave to Lewis because I felt like he took control of the round a little bit more. I guess he looked at what happened in that third round, so it got a little close and decided to try to regain control with that jab. And to Tone's point, fighting tall. So round 3 to Holyfield, round 4 to Lewis. How'd you have him scored, Tone?
So round 3, he said that was his prophecy. You know what I'm saying? But obviously it didn't work. I think Lewis started off with the jab, consistent again. At some point in the middle of the third round, Evander did push the action. He landed a couple of punches, but it was for a short period of time. I think on one end, a lot of fans that came to see Evander was close to the ring, so it was a loud fight in a way. The crowd was loud, and I think that the noise made Evander flurry look more than what it was. But when I look back at that third round, I still feel at the end of the round, after with 30 seconds left, Lewis still was landing that jab. So I actually gave the third round to Lewis, and the fourth round was very easy because Holyfield was gassed out already. He was tired from trying to fulfill his prophecy in the third round, and he didn't do shit in the fourth round. So Lennox just cruised with some jabs and won the round. So I had 3 and 4 for Lewis again.
How'd you have the predicted knockout round in round 4 scored, Robert?
Round 3 was the best action of the fight for the entire 12 rounds as far as give and take. Both men landed several bombs. Holyfield briefly stunned Lewis twice, so I gave Holyfield round 3. But round 4, Lewis completely dominated the round. Holyfield's gassed, like Tone said. Looks like he's got nothing left. And Lewis is landing that left jab at will. He can't miss with that left jab. So round 3, Holyfield. Round 4, Lewis. After 4 rounds, me and Vegas have it 39-37 Lewis. Tone has it 40-36 Lennox Lewis.
And real quick, I'm the outsider this time because even Harold Letterman, who we don't always agree with, did have round 3 for Evander Holyfield like you guys.
Okay.
Just for context.
Well, that was a tough round to score. That round could have gone either way. I almost gave it to Lennox Lewis. But I also remember that night my father and I were scoring the fight that we said, yeah, that was Holyfield's round. Mm-hmm. That was Holyfield's round. Yeah, so it could have gone either way though.
Like you said, best round of the fight for sure. All right, so rounds 5 and 6, I scored for Lewis, and the only note I wrote down was easy because it was just to me it was just dominant in that way. Holyfield looked like he really only showed up for the third round at that point. So I those 2 rounds there, the 5th and 6th round, just went by for me. So I scored them both for Lewis. Tone, how'd you have rounds 5 and 6 scored?
Yeah, man, round 5 and 6 I had for Lewis, man. Very easy, man. I'm gonna tell you, Lewis started with that jab again, and then he hurt Evander with a right hand. You know what I'm saying? Like he hurt Evander with a right hand, had him on the ropes, gave him a little bit of work for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, man, he just beat Evander up in round 5 to me. I mean, it wasn't the most action in the world, but Evander didn't have anything in the 5th round. 6th round, I think Evander had a little flurry and a little left hook. Lewis got lazy a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But still, I just felt like he just did enough to win around, man. So I had 5 and 6 for Lewis again.
How'd you have it scored, Robert?
Round 5, Lewis staggered Holyfield with a right and batted him for the entire round. Yep. You could have made an argument that this was a 10-8 round. It was all Lewis.
He beat him up.
And in the 6th round, once again, Lewis completely controlling the fight with his jab. Holyfield's doing nothing other than that one brief flurry.
Yep.
Oh, one thing I want to add, fellas, is the unprofessionalism shown by George Foreman throughout this entire fight. he was openly rooting for Evander Holyfield.
Yep,
No,
he
man,
was.
that was
Yeah, he
pissing me the
was.
fuck off. And he
Yeah,
even
he
late in the
was.
fight. Come on, Holyfield, come on. What the fuck are you talking about?
And he
Yeah,
insulted the trainer the whole night.
Say that again.
right.
He insulted the trainer the whole night.
And he was like, "Oh, Lennox, he's not throwing that jab like he should." What are you looking at?
Right,
What are
right.
you looking at? He's controlling the whole fight with the jab. Oh
Yeah, he
my
was.
God. George Foreman used to piss me off time and again because he had an agenda. And I always said this. Guys that beat him in the ring, like Tommy Morrison and Evander Holyfield, he loved those guys because they beat him. And then, so he'd be hoping that they'd win so it make him look better in losing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, he
He,
did. He did
he was
sound like he was coaching Holyfield from the goddamn sidelines or
He
something.
really
It's
was.
crazy.
You gotta go to the body. You gotta go to the body. Go to the body.
Very biased. Very biased.
Even though one observation that I did see, Evander Holyfield, not Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis came out, his trunks was up to his fucking chest.
That was correct. That was correct. That was about the only thing he got right because he was talking about Evander Holyfield's got big gloves so he can guard better. What the fuck? What are you
Right,
talking about? All right,
right.
after 6 rounds, Toad has a 60-54, and Vegas and I have a 59-55. Already he needs a knockdown or multiple knockdowns or a knockout to win Evander Holyfield. Little did we know the fix was in. All right, continue.
Absolutely. All right, 7th round. I only wrote one word again, so I gave the round to Lewis because I felt like, and he just dominant. He rolled with the jab, used his height, stayed away, tried to prevent Holyfield in every instance from trying to get inside. So I gave the 7th round to Lewis. 8th round I also gave to Lewis because he controlled with the jab, but I felt like Holyfield was getting a little closer. He was closing the distance a little bit more. He was being a little bit more aggressive, but just not enough, in my opinion, to give him round 8. So round 7 and 8, I gave to Lennox Lewis. How'd you have those rounds scored, Tony?
Yeah, man. Again, man. Round 7 and 8, Lewis for both. Round 7, Lewis actually hurt the veteran again early with a right hand. Couple of good combinations, and just enough to win the round. Round 7 was a slower round, you know what I'm saying? But Lewis still did enough to win, just outboxing him. I mean, again, not a lot of punches that round, but enough for Lewis to win. And Jim, I want to make a note of something Jim Lampley said, and I quote, "You can make a case that Lewis has won every round in this fight." That's what Jim Lampley said. That's what Jim Lampley said, and I agree with him. I was watching the TV screen like, you know what? He's won every round to me right now to this point, and I was right on par with what Jim Lampley, his thought process was at that point in the fight, man. So yeah, 7 and 8, man. Lennox Lewis.
Wow.
Round 7
was all Lennox Lewis again as he landed several booming right crosses and uppercuts. Round 8, dominated by what? Lewis's jab. Whenever there was a lull in the action, fellas, Lewis kept pumping that jab. It was beautiful, fellas. This reminded me of Larry Holmes in his prime, where he just kept beating you with what? That punishing left jab. I've always said Lennox Lewis has one of the 3 greatest jabs in history of boxing. The only guys that I felt had better jabs were Larry Holmes and Thomas Hearns. All Lennox Lewis, despite the fact that George Foreman is saying, he's not using that jab like he should.
Right.
After 8 rounds, 80-72, Tone has it. 79-73, both me and Vegas have it. This is an easy fight to score. I don't know what the hell 2 of the judges were looking at that night. I don't understand it.
Me neither, man. Round 9, I have for Lewis. Again, dominating, controlling, easy round to score. Round 10, in a close round to me, partly because I felt like Lewis showed a little bit of fatigue, and Holyfield showed a little bit of aggression as far as feeling like probably personally I'm losing this damn fight. So I gave the close round to Holyfield, but honestly, it could have gone either way because I don't think he dominated the round, but I think his aggression started to dictate the pace a little bit. He started to back up Lewis a little bit. So round nine, I gave to Lewis. Round 10, I gave to Holyfield in a close round. Tony, how'd you have those 2 rounds scored?
Yeah, round nine was kind of slow to me. Wasn't too much action, but again, Lewis, you know, with the jab, he pulled it out. Evander to me was kind of in survival mode, and I know a few times Emmanuel Stewart was like, "Look, man, if you sit on these damn punches, we can get this fight over with." Basically, you know what I'm saying? So, but Lewis is a smart fighter, so he's a little apprehensive because Holyfield, he got heart. You don't know if a furry happened like them Riddick Bowe fights, and he might get a good punch on you, knock your ass down. So Lewis is still trying to be smart, but he did enough to win round 9. Round 10, man, Evander came out. With some hard punches, some combinations. A little aggressive, man. I think Lennox got distracted because he got headbutted a little bit, and he was in survival mode at that point. You know what I'm saying? And he was just going for broke to me. And Evander pulled that round 10 out. And I think at one point one of the announcers said something about Evander and his headbutting issues and stuff. And Larry Merchant was like, This is a rough game. That's what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit about the headbutt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, it is what it is, man. But round 9 for Lewis, round 10 for Evander Holyfield.
How'd you have those 2 rounds scored, Robert?
Same as you guys. Round 9, another round dominated by Lewis's jab. So I gave round 9 to Lewis. Round 10, Holyfield's best round in several rounds. Lands several huge shots. So I gave round 10 to Holyfield. So after 10 rounds, Tone has it 99-91 for Lewis, and both Vegas and I have it 98-92 for Lewis.
And now we enter the championship rounds. Round 11, I scored again for Lewis. Controlling the fight, took back control. Holyfield's looking like, hey, man, that's all I had in the last round. I'm just going to let you punch on me. And in the 12th round, I literally have, again, for Lewis, and I have the words easy because by that time, Holyfield just looked like he was just ready to go home. And Lewis looked like, I'm going to be undisputed champion, but we all know where this is headed. Tone, how'd you score the final 2 rounds of this fight?
Yeah, man, I had 11 and 12 for Lennox Lewis. Round 11, jab was consistent. Just some very good boxing is what I had in my notes. Evander landed one good right hand the whole round. Gave it to Lewis. Like I said, round 12. Lewis started around. He wasn't just trying to survive. I mean, I think in his mind, like, look, I won this damn fight, but he didn't run in the corner and wait for the time to run out. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting round in the world, but he actually threw some punches and was still trying to, make contact, man. So I thought it was a decent round, but they was both exhausted. You know what I'm saying? And I still gave that round to Lennox Lewis. He still did enough to pull it out.
Robert, how'd you have the final 2 rounds scored for this fight?
Exactly like you two brothers. He did everything behind that jab. He used that jab. When Holyfield got close, he tied him up, made sure he wasn't getting hit with anything stupid because he figured, and wrongfully so, that he was way ahead on the scorecards. I want to say this. This was one of the greatest boxing exhibitions I've ever seen by a fighter against a all-time great in an undisputed title fight. This is up there with Ali's first fight with Sonny Liston. It's up there with talk about another bad score, with Larry Holmes' dismantling of Jerry Cooney. This was a technical masterpiece by Lennox Lewis. This showed how great of a fighter he was because he knew the only way Holyfield could win this fight was to get into a slugfest, and he never let it happen. He stayed outside, and he pumped Holyfield all night long with that jab. Final scorecards from us: 119, 109, Toad. 118, 110, both Vegas and I. The fight was scored a draw. One judge actually had Evander Holyfield winning 7 rounds. Another judge had
Oh
Holyfield and
Yeah.
man.
another judge had Holyfield and Lewis winning 6 rounds apiece to score a draw.
Yeah.
What were they looking at?
The
What were they
first
looking
judge
at?
had it.
Oh
Hey,
my God.
the first
What-
judge had it 115, 113 for Holyfield.
Yeah, he had 7 rounds for Holyfield.
Yeah,
Oh
and you
my
know what?
God.
Round 2 rounds for Holyfield, where he get 5 others.
So listen, guys. Let me say this real quick, and y'all know how I feel about when this kind of shit happened in boxing. Man, it just turns my stomach because this was literally the easiest fight I've judged since we started this podcast.
You
Yeah,
could
that's
make-
true.
Fellas,
That's true.
you could make an argument that this was a worse decision than Purnell versus Chavez, which was a highway robbery, which we did,
Mhm.
and Azuma Nelson versus Jeff Fennick, which was a highway robbery. That
Well,
we
I
did.
think it's the worst because I had 11 rounds to 1.
Yeah. Those other fights, I had it 10-2 one fight, and we might have had it 10-2 for Azuma Fennick and 10-2,
I think
9-3
we might have.
Whitaker Chavez.
Right.
But this is the first fight that one of us had 11 rounds to 1 for one of the guys. So
right.
this-
Right.
this might be the worst decision in the history of boxing, man. Unbelievable.
For me,
I could-
it's right
I
there.
could
It's
go
right
with
there at
that.
the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go with that because when I think about when I was scoring a fight, this is probably the first time I'm scoring a fight, and I caught myself daydreaming because the shit
so
was
easy.
going one way. I had to refocus, but I'm like, Vanda ain't doing shit. Like, let me write down my score
Yeah, Jim
already.
Lampley, man, you know, some of his comments at the end of the fight, I agree with him, and he just kind of like, you know, basically it's unfortunate that Lennox Lewis came and fought a masterful fight and deserved to be at the time the first, you know, European undisputed champion. He got robbed, man. It was a travesty, man. It's the worst one I've seen.
Now they fought 8 months later and Lewis won, but there should have never been a rematch.
Yeah, it should have been a rematch.
There should have never been a rematch. And Holyfield had no business fighting again. He was done after this. You could see in this fight that he was shot, but yet he continued to fight for another 10 to 15 years after this.
Oh my God.
Even came back last year in a travesty of an exhibition where he almost got killed, where he looked like he was a stroke victim. What the fuck?
Yeah, man.
Unbelievable, man.
It's crazy when you look back at it because you want to remember it was different, but you're absolutely right. He almost looked not that different back then, looking at the fight again,
Right.
than he does now. You know what I'm
Which is
saying?
sad. He fought, and fellas, the New York State Athletic Commission and the Nevada State Athletic Commission suspended him for several years. He went to court, got it overturned, came back and took more beatings.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable, man.
Terrible.
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, if you are listening to this episode or watching this episode and you scored the fight along with us or you scored it at some other point, how did you score the fight? Were your cards different? Were they the same as Tones or me and Roberts? Did you give Lewis every round? Or maybe you've never seen Earth before and you're blind legally and you scored all the rounds for Holyfield. Whatever the case may be, leave your comments in the comment section below. We love to chat. Fellas, this is dope. You know, new year, you know what I'm saying? Not much coming up, but definitely worth talking about because there'll be a ton of dope boxing matchups happening. We'll be going. Also, real quick for people who don't know, you know, if you're interested in knowing what who our top 5 pound for pound fighters were last year, go and check out the other episodes on this podcast stream. But more importantly, check out all the episodes because we've scored a number of fights like this fight back in the days, some controversial, some just tough fights to score. And as a boxing fan, that's kind of the fun part of it, right? Seeing how we all view these different matchups and round by round, basically. So again, subscribe to the podcast, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Vegas of Hip Hop Now podcast. Go check out the homie Tony's website, intothedome.com. Read some articles, follow him on Twitter and all that good stuff. And also Robert Silver, who's a part of a number of podcasts, boxing to movies to hip hop or music in general. Follow us all on social media. Everything we do, check it out because we give it the same love and care
Yep.
that we do on this show because we're passionate fans of what we do. Until next time, y'all, do not get caught getting dropped in the streets. The Omicron is out here. Why are you getting knocked out, fam?
No
Take
doubt.
your ass in the house. Like, yo. Like, I mean, come on, man. Whatever. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Drop it on the random.